Hello everyone, thank you for joining today's webinar. I will wait just several minutes to allow more participants to join before we begin. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so we waited for 4 minutes, so let's start. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all participants joining us from different parts of the world. I would like to warmly welcome you to today's webinar on REDD Plus Community of Practice. My name is Keiichi Igarashi, Program Officer from the Afford Unit within the UN Climate Change, and I'll be guiding you through the introduction of today's session. Let me share a few quick logistical points to help you make the most of this webinar. And today's event is being held on Microsoft Teams, and by default, participants are not able to turn on their camera and unmute their microphones throughout the session. But you are very welcome to post your questions or comments related to the webinar contents in the QA box at any time. For any logistical or technical questions, such as connection or audio issues, please use the comment box in comment chat instead. And my colleagues will monitor both and respond as much as possible during the session. In this seminar, live caption translation is available in French and Spanish. My colleague have shared the link in the comment chat. Once you open the link, it will launch a browser window where you can select your preferred language, English, French, or Spanish. Please note that translation is provided as caption only. The webinar is being recorded, and both the recording and presentations will be made available on the REDD Plus web platform after the event. Today's webinar is relatively short, 1 hour maximum, but we are very pleased to have participants from many countries and partner organizations with us today. And before moving on to the next agenda, I will show you today's program. After this short introduction, my colleague Doug Nemitz will do introduction of the REDD Plus community of practice, and then I will walk through the upgraded REDD Plus platform, sharing my screen, and this webinar will end with the QA session. But as I mentioned, you can put questions anytime using the QA box on the tab. We hope this webinar marks the start of a continuous exchange that will support REDD Plus implementation and cooperation on the road to COP30 and beyond. So after this short introduction, we'll begin with the first main agenda by Dirk Nemitz, team lead of the 4 unit, who will provide the framing for today's discussion. Dirk, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Keiichi. Good afternoon from Bonn and good morning to everybody joining the call. We want to cover 2 things. One is what in this short presentation, how is the convention and how is the Paris Agreement dealing with forests? What are the agreements that we have? And the second is what is our plan for the future and beyond COP30, what we call the REDD Plus community of practice. Next slide, please. Can go to the first, yeah. Forests have been enshrined already under the Convention 1992 in a somewhat cryptic, technically, legally accurate provision where it says that one of the objectives is to promote sustainable management and promote and cooperate in the conservation and enhancement of sinks and reservoirs of all greenhouse gases not controlled by the Montreal Protocol, including biomass, forests and oceans, as well as other terrestrial, coastal and marine ecosystems. So forests is especially mentioned here already as one of the key ecosystems, and the same applies to Article 5.1 of the Paris Agreement adopted in 2015, which refers back to 4.1D, but also mentions forests specifically, and then also mentions in Article 5.2 what we call the Warsaw Framework for REDD Plus, which is about encouraging to take action and to implement and support REDD Plus activities, including through results-based payments. Next slide, please. What is important to understand is that the Warsaw Framework, which was a set of decisions in 2013, with that was elevated to treaty level and became permanent. Unless there's an agreement by parties to the UNFCCC, parties to the Paris Agreement, this will not change. It will just be there for parties to use to implement REDD Plus and cooperate on this matter. What we also have as a result of negotiations at COP28, roughly 2 years ago, is an agreement on what we would like to achieve or what is the aspirational goal of this work. And that is the Decision 1 CMA5, where there's guidance for future NDCs, especially for the NDCs that are we refer to as NDCs 3.0, which are due this year. We received some of them already. We hope that there will be a few more before the COP and maybe some latecomers also during the COP. And the guidance, the 1 CMA5 basically gives guidance on what should be covered and what should be reflected upon in these NDCs. And it contains 2 paragraphs that are very specific on forest, 33 on enhancing efforts towards halting and reversing deforestation and forest degradation by 2030, but then also 34, supplementing this, also underlining the need for enhanced support and investment for these activities. And also important to note is that there's an explicit link in paragraph 33 to the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. So we are starting to look at forests in a more holistic way and encourage parties to do the same in their NDCs. Next slide, please. We should explain briefly what the Warsaw Framework for REDD+ is. It's a holistic framework that was adopted in 2013. I don't think there's anything similar for any other sector under the UNFCCC, or I'm pretty sure there's not. But I also don't think there's any framework as comprehensive as this one on forests anywhere in the multilateral agendas that I'm aware of. It encompasses 5 activities. Everybody thinks immediately about reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation, but it also contains activities for enhancement of forest carbon stocks, which can be forest restoration, but also afforestation or reforestation activities, the conservation of forest carbon stocks, and sustainable management of forests, basically practicing forestry in a way that there are less emissions with the same timber production. The idea was that this is implemented in phases. So the initial phases are readiness and demonstration activities, and the final phase would be for results-based payments, where countries receive payments specifically for emission reductions achieved. And there's been a very clear decision that this can be from a variety of sources. It could be non-market based, for example, where there's no transfer. We will come to the Green Climate Fund, which falls into this category. There's no transfer of the carbon rights. There's only transfer of funds. It could also be market-based, where there are actors that, for example, through corresponding adjustments, make a payment, but then through the corresponding adjustments also gain some of the carbon rights. What parties agreed countries need to implement are 5 steps before they are eligible for such results-based payments. One is the National REDD+ strategy or action plan, so that things are really coordinated at the national level. So you don't have increasing deforestation on one side and decreasing on another, and you just focus on the area where there are results. Forest reference emission level, so you set a baseline of what has been your past experience or what is the most likely predictor for the future, and against which your performance will be measured. A safeguard information summary, so a system that helps to show that there is no harm and no negative impacts on the environment or on the social areas of society because of the REDD+ implementation. Of course, the National Forest Monitoring System, this should be ingrained in the existing efforts of the country and be able to cover the forests of the country, including natural forests. And finally, also there need to be REDD+ results reported, which will be compared against the reference level. Next slide, please. So far, we have 65 countries actively involved in REDD+. We've started, negotiations on REDD+ started in 2005. The Warsaw Framework was from 2013. And afterwards, there were the first submissions of a forest reference emission level in 2014. And then over the last decade, we received reference levels from 65 countries. Some of them also updated their reference levels. We received national strategies from 35 countries, safeguards information systems from 33, and so far 24 countries have submitted their REDD+ results. 21 countries have all of the 5 elements in place and are eligible, are included in the Lima information for REDD+, and are eligible to receive results-based payments for reduction of a total of 12 gigatons about. I think it's important to note here as well that these are diverse. Different countries have different activities included, and different countries have different time frames for that. It's not easily comparable from country to country, but that was an explicit decision by the COP to allow inclusivity and allow as many countries as possible to participate and protect the global forests. Next slide, please. What is important to note is that there's no central mechanism through which their results-based payments are being paid out, but there are several ways through which countries can apply for funding. One thing that has been lacking so far, and which has changed 2024, is a long-term perspective. While the Paris Agreement is permanent in its structure and the way it's been agreed, there's not been a permanent payment mechanism for results-based payments so far. What was adopted last year by the board of the Green Climate Fund is a window where countries can apply for, or where it includes REDD+ results-based payments in the fund's regular project activity cycle, and which is fully aligned with the Warsaw framework for REDD+. So once these steps are in place, a country can apply for funding with the Green Climate Fund. And in a similar way, Article 6.4 supervisory body agreed last year that for activities that fall under the scope of REDD+, the project level activities need to link to the host country's national REDD+ strategy, but also the national reference level and the national safeguard system. What we see in these is a strong signal for the long-term implementation of national REDD+. So there are signals that this should be supported in the future, and we hope that there will be a stabilization and a more predictable source of results-based payments. Next slide, please. One thing to keep an eye on is the binary transparency report. These are reports that parties to the Paris Agreement have to submit every 2 years. And this is the channel for submitting the REDD+ results. As of April 2025, we received BTRs from 101 parties, 6 of which included a REDD+ technical annex as part of their BTRs, reporting a total of about 285 million tons CO2 equivalent in emission reductions from REDD+ activities. You notice there's a difference. There was a previous reporting cycle under the convention in annual update reports. And of course, there's been a lot of emission reductions already reported under the convention. Now that countries are reporting, or the first time countries reported under the Paris Agreement was by 31st December 2024, so end of last year, the BTRs were received, and this is when we started receiving the BTRs. But the submission process and the reporting process is basically almost the same. There is the very first BTR synthesis report is available, and that also then includes further details on policies and measures related to forests that have been included in the first set of BTRs. Next slide, please. Of course, the global stocktake informed the NDC 3.0. So far, we have received 64 NDCs, and there's an NDC synthesis report that has just been published last week, which also contains information on the NDCs. Key messages on forests is that international collaboration and REDD+ results-based payments are highlighted as key to mitigation in the forest sector, as I would say as a structure and as an incentive. More parties than previously included in the NDC a broader range of forest actions. And of course, what we also still see, what we hope to see changing also as well, is that there remains a funding gap, with parties stressing the need for predictable finance, including the results-based payments for REDD+, which is essential for turning the ambition that many countries have into actual outcomes. Next slide, please. Because we are just 1 week away from starting COP30 in the Amazon, also brief mentioning of our events there. We have one together with FAO, UNEP, and UNDP on turning the tide on deforestation, which is a follow-up event to a similar event we had at COP25 on request of the UN Secretary General, asking to highlight how the UN and the multilateral system can act as a key enabler for forest solutions and demonstrate that forest transformation is underway and scalable and supported by the UN. And the second one is the REDD+ Community of Practice side event on the global Mutirao for forests, where we want to explain a bit more to COP participants what is the role of forests in the updated NDCs, and also showcase insights from the REDD+ Community of Practice, which I will explain next. Next slide, please. You can go to next. The idea of the community of practice is to look a bit into what is the current landscape of things. Where do we stand? We have more than a decade after the adoption of the Warsaw Framework for REDD+, and we see many countries struggling. While the Warsaw Framework is permanent, there's other things that are ever evolving. There's technical challenges. On the one hand, technology gives us a lot of solutions. On the other hand, they also require almost permanent capacity building on remote sensing, on statistical methodologies, etc. We have the Green Climate Fund with a new policy. Actually, last week they also published templates for making submissions under this new methodology, and they adopted some further result-based payments for Uganda and Laos. So there's always something happening as well. We still have countries working with the FCPF of the World Bank on the REDD+ activities. We have Article 6, which includes the Article 6.4, which I already mentioned, but also 6.2 and 6.8, where there are permanent developments. We have many countries working with the voluntary carbon market and or with Corsair, and with others that look into biodiversity credits. And there's more aspects as well, like the adaptation angle of forest finance. What has been brought to us is the request or the expression of a need for a dedicated space for discussion and information exchange on these topics, and be able to talk to fellow countries and other people having the same issues to understand how can you best access different possibilities for funding, and how do you deal with the different reporting requirements, how do you ensure there's no double counting, all of these elements. Next slide, please. We would like to react to that. What we already have in place is a REDD+ discussion forum, which has been mandated at SAPSA 32 some years ago, mainly focusing on experiences and lessons learned on the use of the IPCC guidance and guidelines, but it's not that much used. It's a bit outdated technology, I would say, and we will update this forum soon, and then start to have also moderated discussions to look into what can be done online. And I think an online space nowadays to have a virtual communication and have a real-time exchange is the backbone of such an activity. Next slide, please. What we also have for countries that are active in REDD+ and actively making submissions is the reviews, the technical assessment of proposed forest reference emission levels and forest reference levels, and the technical analysis of REDD+ results, which are good opportunities to have direct interaction between experts in REDD+ countries. And from my side, having been involved in some of these, it's a good capacity building opportunity as well, both for the country, which is exchanging with two experts, one from a developing and one from a developed country, to assess the data and the information and the methodologies and discuss on whether everything has been applied correctly, but also for the experts themselves who take all of the discussions and the learnings back to their country in the end. So a few benefits we would like to highlight of the review process. Of course, it's a requirement for REDD+ results-based payments to undergo both the review of the reference level and the review of the results. But what we have also seen is that countries that went through this process enhanced their capacity to report greenhouse gas emissions and removals in the forest sector, helping to build trust and enabling them to track progress towards achieving the NDCs, but also then from there trickling to other sectors. So if the forest sector has a strong reporting, then this is often also a source from which other sectors in the same country can learn how to report better and use the IPCC guidelines correctly. Using the insights gained from the REDD+ review, of course, countries also then have increased their long-term capacity to analyze data and help them to make informed policy decisions and implement potentially more ambitious climate action in the forest sector. And of course, the REDD+ review itself also identifies areas of technical improvement and capacity building needs, which can help to prioritize, but also can help to attract support to these areas when there's a clear plan of what is needed in the country and how will it improve the reporting, but also the implementation itself. Next slide, please. So overview of the community of practice, just to go a bit more into what we'll see. We've talked about the upgrade of the REDD+ discussion forum. We'll have webinars and e-learning courses, a bit like the one we are having here today. We're also planning to identify topics where infographics would be helpful, or some kind of information material from the Secretariat explaining things in more detail on what are the actual rules on safeguards, on national REDD+ strategies, etc. What has been agreed and decided. And we also want to have REDD+ meetings with the countries, because as much as you want to be efficient and base many things in the virtual world and in remote work, it often works better when delegates know each other, when people know each other, and when they also have a personal relationship and exchange. And some things are more easily discussed in a room with a small group of people that can go into technical details more easily. Next slide, please. What we are considering is regional meetings in the 3 regions: Latin American, Caribbean, in the African region, and in Asia and the Pacific. And these are meant to be small focus meetings, maybe with 20 to 25 experts from countries, that can have a South-South exchange and an open discussion on what are opportunities and what are challenges, and learn from each other. And we'll start with the first of these meetings for Latin American countries after the COP, mid-December in Brazil. And we hope we can follow with meetings in the other regions later in 2026. And then we will have a global REDD+ summit, a meeting where we have all of the 65 countries that are currently engaged in REDD+ with UNFCCC invited, plus also other stakeholders, donor countries, and also multilateral financing agencies and UN organizations. So we probably look at about 100, a bit over 100 participants. So it's a slightly different type of meeting, but where we can bring things together and also have a forum for discussing questions and challenges with a bigger group, and carry these questions back to the donors, which also need to, and the standards, for example, which also need to consider how things can be combined most effectively to address deforestation and forest degradation. We are planning to have the first meeting of these in the first quarter of next year, and then if funding allows, that will be probably about every 2 years. And another objective of this is to keep the momentum going of COP30. I mean, this year we have a lot of visibility on forests, and we would like to carry this into the next years and keep the momentum going and keep visibility of good efforts to reduce or to halt and reverse deforestation and forest degradation by 2030, and keep a forum where this can be exchanged and where challenges can be exchanged as well. Next slide, please. Close to the end of my presentation, at least. So just to show this again, in a summary, we will have a new REDD+ web platform, which is a central hub for sharing information, and you're very welcome to already send documents that you have, reports that you have that you think are read-worthy for other experts, stakeholders, and countries with a new REDD+ discussion forum. We will use discussions in the meetings to identify topics that might be of interest and may be discussed in the forums, but may also be informing our efforts to make infographics or explainer videos to really address misunderstandings or concepts that are maybe a bit challenging or too technical in UNFCCC decisions, to explain them a bit more. And based on these infographics and videos, we would also organize further webinars like this ones, or maybe even e-learning courses. So it's all connected. Next slide, please. And of course, the central slot for all of this, which is your go-to hub, where you find our email address, where you can, there will be an opportunity for Q&A later in this meeting. But if there's anything that you missed today or you want to ask and discuss later, there's also an email address. You can contact us. It's red.unfccc.int. You can create an account and then be included in our regular REDD+ updates, which is usually 2 or 3 newsletters per year. So it's not too frequent, but I think gives a good overview of what is happening in the UNOCC context. Instead of having a dry talk on the REDD Plus newsletter, I would like to, on the REDD Plus web platform, I would like to close my presentation here and hand back to Kiichi, who will give you a run through the actual REDD Plus web platform. Thank you very much, and Kiichi, back to you.
Thank you very much, Dirk. Before moving on to my demo session, I'd like to remind all participants that if you have any questions on the presentation, please put them on the QA box on the top tab. My colleagues will respond to them as much as possible, so please do not hesitate to ask any questions. So I will start the demo session. Okay, so I will walk you through the upgraded REDD Plus web platform, which serves as a central information hub for REDD Plus under the UNFCCC. And this platform has been in operation for more than a decade, helping countries, donors, and stakeholders across access offshore REDD Plus submissions, technical assessment, and result-based payment information. And this year, it underwent its first major upgrade with new features designed to make information easier to find, visualize, and use. I'll show you the main components of the platform, including the interactive map, the 4-leaf icon system, the remote REDD Plus information hub, and new sections such as the news page and the fact sheet.
Casey, we don't see your screen.
Not shared yet. Yeah, by the end, you will see how the platform brings together all the REDD Plus related submissions, decisions, and data in one place. You can follow along or explore later by visiting the REDD Plus web platform at redd.unccc.int. I will send you the link in the comment chat to the REDD Plus web platform. So if you want to explore with me, please access the now. And after the session, I hope you have a clear understanding of what information is available on the platform and how to navigate it efficiently. So now I'll share my screen and turn off my camera so you can see the demonstration more clearly. And again, if you have any questions or suggestions during my demo, please write them in the QA box and my colleagues will respond as much as possible. So let's start with the home page. This is your entry point when visiting the platform. Here you'll find a global interactive map, announcement on ongoing or upcoming processes, links to REDD Plus guidance and background materials, including how to submit REDD Plus document, a short REDD Plus video, infographics, and the direct access to all other sections through the top navigation bar. This design aims to serve both experienced users familiar with REDD Plus under the UNFCCC and newcomers who want to understand what the framework is about. On this map, countries that are implementing REDD Plus are shown in green, while donor countries are shown in yellow. When you click on any country, a pop-up window appears with key information and a 4-leaf icon, one of the most useful visual features of the upgrade. So let's click on Brazil as an example. A pop-up window appears showing a 4-leaf icon with a badge. Each leaf represents one of the 4 requirements for seeking and obtaining result-based finance, a national strategy or action plan, a forest reference emission level or forest reference level, a system for providing information on safeguard, a national forest monitoring system. Each leaf changes colors depending on the submission status. For example, green means the requirement has been submitted and or assessed analyzed. A light green means it's under assessment. Gray means it hasn't yet submitted yet. And a badge is attached when the REDD Plus result has been submitted or technically analyzed. In case of Brazil's first icon, the year 2014, indicate when Brazil submitted its forest emission reference emission level, and the period 2006-2010 shows the years covered by the REDD+ result submitted against that reference level. And you can also see that it's labeled Amazon biome, meaning the submission covers a specific subnational area. For this 2014 reference level, Brazil also submitted REDD+ result for 2011-2015. So the second leaf icon was created. And this leaf is created for each REDD+ result submission. If results have not been submitted, for instance, Brazil 2023 forest reference level submission, a leaf icon is created only for the reference level without information on the result. Back to the 2014, if you look closely, all the leaves of the icon are green and marked as verified. This means Brazil has met all the requirements to receive result-based payment for this REDD+ result. And you can also see the text explaining the status of each requirement, like reported or assessed. So what happened if some information is missing? So let's look at Sudan, for example. Sudan has submitted two reference levels, one in 2020 and another is 2025. For the 2025 reference level, its technical assessment is still ongoing. So the second leaf is light green with a status under TA, under technical assessment. And also Sudan has not yet submitted its safeguard information summary and forest monitoring system and REDD+ result. That's why the third and fourth leaves are gray with no batch. And another example is Colombia. Colombia had two verified results for the period 2013, 2014, and 2015 and 2016. Both marked with a verified batch. And it recently submitted new REDD+ result as an annex to its first biennial transparency report. Since its technical analysis is in progress, a yellow technical annex batch indicates that status that is not verified yet. This simple but powerful visual system allows you to see at a glance whether a country has completed all requirements for result-based payment, and if not, which elements are still missing. And the same icon appears on each country's individual page, which I'll explain later. And this pop-up window also provides statistical data on REDD+ result and payment. You'll find a tab REDD+ result, which displays a bar chart showing result by year, and another tab for results table, which lists detailed numerical values. If a country has received result-based payment, that information appears under the payment table, showing the amount, the paying entity, and relevant documentation, if any. And these functions make it much easier for policymakers and analysts to see progress and identify where further action is needed. The other content on homepage remain familiar, but the layout is more modern and user-friendly. So let's move on to the news section, one of the new features. This page now archives all newsletters and announcements. You can browse every REDD+ newsletter published so far. For example, the latest topic is the newsletter we published last September. And for each side event articles. For example, this one is article of the REDD+ side event we had during the June session this year. And on this page, you'll find the recordings and the concept note, including agendas. And this section will be updated regularly. And after this webinar, we will put the information on this webinar on this page. So it's worth checking often to stay up to date with REDD+ development, including those on the road to COP30 and beyond. And next page is the fact sheet. This section provides the background information on each of the REDD+ elements, for instance, national strategies, reference labels, monitoring systems, safeguards, and MRV arrangement. Although the main structure remains the same, the design has been significantly improved. And a very practical addition is a country submission list under each element. For example, under the national strategy, you will see a list of countries that have submitted their strategies. For example, if we open Argentina, you can see the link to Argentina's country page and also its national strategy submitted in 2019. And these similar lists are now available for reference level, national forest monitoring systems, safeguard, and REDD+ MRV, which are the requirement for receiving result-based finance. And the overall design is also now much cleaner and easier to navigate, making it a good starting point for anyone learning about the REDD+ process. And I will not go into every sub-page today, but I encourage you to explore pages like the driver of deforestation and share your feedback. We welcome any suggestions for improving both content and layout. So now let's look at the submission page, one of the most visited sections. If you click by country, you see all countries that have submitted REDD+ information, including both donors and the REDD+ countries. Selecting a country, such as Argentina, opens a detail page. Each country page shows its national focal point, information related to result-based payment, and other REDD+ related submissions. The central table lists each forest reference level and the result, REDD+ result with information on the year, activities covered, reported emission reductions, and values of forest reference levels. Clicking documentation brings up the 4-leaf icon and links to the corresponding report as well as technical assessment and analysis report. And under other submission related to REDD+, you can also download additional documents voluntarily submitted by parties. And on the by organization page, you can find submissions from organizations that were registered to the platform. For example, if we go to the FAO page, you can see the REDD+ related materials shared by FAO in July this year. And we contact these organizations regularly to ensure this information remains up to date. So let's move on to one of the most important parts of the platform, the RIMA REDD+ Information Hub. This page compiles information for all countries that have met the requirement to receive result-based payment. At this stage, 21 REDD+ countries have entered the Info Hub. In addition to the information on each country page, you also find details on the payment received and entities providing them. A major improvement here is the Excel export function. Go to the export assistant and you can now filter by country, an area, national or subnational, and the year, the REDD+ activity covered, and then you can export the selected data directly to the Excel sheet. So yeah, like this way, you can get the data in the Excel format. And this feature eliminates the need to copy and paste from the website and makes it much easier to perform your own analysis. So the last two sections are forum and meeting pages. And as Dirk mentioned in his presentation, the forum was outside the scope of this upgrade this year, but we plan to improve it in future update as part of the REDD+ community of practice. It will serve as the collaborative space for knowledge exchange and peer discussion among countries and stakeholders. And the meeting page, meanwhile, now has an updated layout. It lists REDD+ meetings, workshops, and side events organized under the UNFCCC and also by stakeholders. And we encourage all partners and stakeholders to share information about their own REDD+ related events here. That concludes the overview of the upgraded REDD+ web platform. And these improvements aim to make the platform more transparent, user-friendly, and informative, supporting the implementation of REDD+ and fostering collaboration among countries and partners. And we hope these improvements make it easier for users to find information, understand progress, and stay engaged with REDD+ activities worldwide. And before we move on to the last agenda QA session, I'd like to invite all participants to register on the REDD+ web platform. And you can see, I think the login register here. Now I think you can see UNFCCC, but on your screen, I think you can see the login registers at the top of the page. And from here, you can create your account. Registered users receive regular update, newsletters, and invitations to future events, including upcoming sessions of the REDD+ Committee of Practice and REDD+ side event at the SB sessions and COPs. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope this tour helps you navigate the REDD+ web platform with ease and make full use of it to stay informed, connected, and engaged in the global REDD+ process. So now let's move on to the last QA session. So I could not monitor the QA box, but Dirk, do you have any questions you want to address?
I'm happy to go through the questions in the box first, and then see whether there's any more questions from the audience. I think some have already been responded to. One is there from Efrian. How to accommodate different capacity of countries in order to have balanced discussions between advanced countries and less advanced. Also to encourage investments to less advanced countries. Well, I would say the REDD+ Committee of Practice is not directly about investments. It's of course to enable those that are less advanced to learn from those that are more advanced in a South-South exchange forum, so that they can get more access and can understand better how to deal with the system. So that they can get REDD+ benefits from capacity building to results-based payments in the end. Then I see two questions from Letitia. Does the REDD web platform integrate all the relevant information from countries that have made REDD+ submissions in an integrated manner, for example, NDC information? It does not, because there's a very specific mandate what goes into the platform, and this is information reported by countries on the REDD+ reference level and the REDD+ results, the safeguards, and the national strategies. It's not meant to link directly to NDCs. So for that, you would have to go to the NDC platform, or, which is currently easier, look at the NDC synthesis report from last week, and then also get an update on where we stand right now with the current NDCs. And then another one we see, you mentioned topics that fall outside the Warsaw framework for REDD+, which are important to cover. I'm wondering if the key topics of nesting will be included in discussion and open to other actors like subnational governments, as well as IP representatives, civil society, etc. I would say everything that is online is open to everyone, right? There's webinars like this. There will be webinars on information products. There will be discussion forums which are free for everyone to use and to open and discuss and to bring their questions and concerns and see whether other actors in the field would like to react to that and talk. So the REDD+ web platform is really open as an experience exchange tool for everyone. For the meetings, we have to be a bit more pragmatic, because the meeting space is always limited, and this would go into the thousands of people potentially if we have a global meeting at that scale. So for the global meeting, there will be representatives, but it will go through the existing channels of the convention for dealing with or for inclusion of observer organizations, so that we can limit participation to not much more than 100 people and can still have a fruitful discussion in these settings, and also something that can be managed with the existing resources. I see some questions also came in the chat. Maybe I can have a quick look at those as well. Whether REDD+ can lead to a reduction of global warming. I mean, if given that deforestation alone is about 10% of global emissions, if we if countries would be able to address this, of course there would be an effect on global warming, but it's an additional activity. Addressing forests alone will not be solving global warming, but it will contribute to the reduction of global warming. But of course, all the other sectors will also need to do their share for things to be effective. And we have to be speeding up efforts, I think, a lot. If I look at the Forest Resources Assessment from also launched, I think, about 2 weeks ago, Forest Resources Assessment 2025 by FAO, it showcases that there have been improvements, but in order to halt and reverse deforestation and forest degradation by 2030, we are not yet fully on track. The next question is easy. How does one get information on, for example, Zambia has made any submission on the REDD+ platform? Each country that made a submission has a country page, and on that country page you find everything that the country has submitted. Kiichi is showing now Zambia. So Zambia has made a 2016 submission of a forest reference emission level, and then a 2021 update of that, most likely with updated methodologies and data, or definitely with data. I'm not seeing any more questions. I think in the chat there's something happening in the Q&A. Let's see. There's Marika's question whether the downloadable Excel with updates on reference level submissions and reported years remain available. That was a good resource. And I think it will be. Kiichi, did you show it? I think you showed
yes,
it.
So
yeah.
Okay, I will show my screen.
Yeah.
So now, yeah, along with the upgrade, the link to the latest reference level information, emission reduction information now available under news section. Under this one, you can see overview submitted REDD+ reference levels and REDD+ result. And if you click read more, the Excel file will be downloaded containing the all information about forest reference level, and also REDD+ result. But we received some feedbacks. This is a bit difficult to find, so we may locate this link to other page, like on homepage.
Yeah. Okay, and that's maybe two general messages we would like to give away as take-home messages. One is that we are available for your questions even after this webinar. So if there's anything, you can always reach us by the email that is mentioned on the REDD+ web platform. And two is that we are very, very, very much interested also in constructive feedback on where do you have difficulties? What is your use case where you would like to get information from the REDD web platform, but you don't easily get it? Where did you get stuck on finding certain information? I think that's very useful for us to know so that we can ensure this is as useful as possible as a resource. I see we have 5 minutes left. If there's any questions from the audience, we can still take it, but I definitely don't want to run over time. And I don't see any. Okay, there's one hand.
Okay, I will unmute. So I think now, Raya, I think you can unmute your microphone.
Good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Thank you very much for this platform that you have put up on that for us. Now, I was trying to register on the website, and I'm being asked to submit a confirmation password on the registration platform. So I don't know if you can help me with that, so that I can finish up the registration.
Yes, so yeah, all new users need a temporary password, and after this webinar, I will send you this temporary password, and so you can complete the registration process.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. This is something we had to implement. We were running against spam, and there were more and more new captures and everything you can install, but at some point we had to give up and create a system that spam cannot break, which is through asking us for the email password, then you get the password, and then you can register. And okay, now we get another question, an interesting question from Stephen. What are the unique selling points of the UNFCCC REDD+ web platform compared to that of the existing initiatives such as the UNRED Academy platform and near future communities of practice, such as that of the forthcoming JRED coalition? I'm not fully briefed on what they will do. Of course, we are rooted in the permanent structure of the Paris Agreement and all of the details that are there. We have the authoritative data reported by countries, and we can capture all of the different results-based actions or the results that are then listed in the Info Hub, as well as results-based payments to provide transparency on the activities, which are then also linked to the reporting of parties under the Paris Agreement, including the need for consistency with the greenhouse gas inventory included in the biannual transparency reports. So I think the idea here is that the implementation of the Paris Agreement and of REDD+ go hand in hand and support each other in a way that we have not seen that much enforced outside of the UNFCCC, maybe with the exception of the Green Climate Fund, which has always been very closely related and closely looked at building upon the Warsaw Framework, and then going on top of that with the requirements that they need before they can do the results-based payments. And I think that's where we want to go. We want to ensure that countries are making progress in both, and especially in the transparency that is needed, so that we can get or can remain to have faith in the implementation of the Paris Agreement, and that REDD+ is actually contributing to that actively. Okay, I think we have to close. Kichi, I'll hand over to you for the final points on the survey. And I thank you all very much for the active questions and for participation today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dirk. And thank you very much for all of your questions and active participation in today's sessions. We hope this webinar has given you a clear understanding of the REDD+ committee of practice and the upgraded REDD+ web platform. And the Secretariat sincerely appreciate your time and engagement. Your feedback and ideas are essential as we continue improving the platform and shaping the community of practice to best serve REDD+ countries, donors, and stakeholders. So we kindly invite you to take a short survey to share your thoughts about today's session. You can access it by clicking the link in the chat box or by scanning the QR code displayed on your screen. It will take only a few minutes, and your input will be invaluable for our next steps. So we also encourage you to visit and register on the platform to stay informed about upcoming activities, newsletters, and relevant events on COP and SB sessions. And once again, thank you for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you at the future sessions and to continuing this dialogue through the community of practice. And have a great day or evening wherever you are, and goodbye for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.